You know I've traveled near and far, see the shining sea. I've seen a lot of places and people that were nice to me. One place that's in my heart, and this is how I feel. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. She's nestled in the sand hills on a river called Fayetteville. Special to so many who proudly served our country here. She was named for Lafayette and known for cotton mills. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. Babe Ruth hit his first one, heard around the world. Sherman marched with the Union and burned the arsenal. Old Market House still standing, but stands for freedom's will. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. My all-American city, Fayetteville. Talking about my hometown, Fayetteville.
I'd like to call the Monday, August 13th, Fayetteville City Council work session, council meeting to order. We've had a month break, so we've got to get warmed back up. But welcome each and every one of you tonight to our August 13th council meeting. Item 2.0 is the invocation. We'll ask the council member Larry Wright, Pastor Wright, Bishop Wright, give us our prayer. If we could all stand for the prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you here in this session. We pray for the city council, the mayor, staff, and all the residents of this great city as we sit and talk about things that we must vote on and make policies to make this a better place to live, work, and raise our children. Be with the council. Help us, God, to see the vision of this great city as it materializes, that we make right decisions, place projects in the proper positions in place for growth. Bless us, God, as we are one council for the betterment of the citizens of this great city. And let us all work together in unity as one as you approve the agenda. And we thank you. In the precious name of your Son, the Christ, we pray. Amen.
Would normally ask the pastor who gave the invocation to tell us about himself or his church, but I think
I can do that.
Tell us about your church, Pastor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for this opportunity. I often sit on the bench and are a little jealous of other pastors that's able to talk about their ministries. And I have this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the Heal the Land Outreach Ministry. We were founded in 1999 here downtown Fayetteville, and we do outreach work in our community, concerned about the least of these. And the services that we have is on Sundays at 11 o'clock, and on Wednesday nights we have Bible teaching, just sharing the Word of God and helping those in need and the least of these in our community. So Heal the Land Outreach Ministries, 414 Hall Street. And thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Pastor Wright. Item 4.0, the announcements and recognition. So at this time, the announcements, I'll turn to Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to, welcome back from vacation. I would like to introduce Ashlyn Burgos from Grace Creek High School, and she is a senior, and she is our representative tonight from the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So in the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council, we've been working very hard throughout the summer on our biggest project of the year, which is the 5K Glow Fest that is held October 6th at Festival Park. And through this program, we are able to create scholarship funds for our amazing members to go out around the state and national level to represent not only FCYC, but Fayetteville, North Carolina. And if you want more information about the event, you can go to our Facebook page, 5K Glow Fest, and you can get the link to sign up for the race and the link to have a great time with the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council. And more about us, we're a youth-led organization, and we're all chosen by our respective principals from our schools, and we are coming together as one to help motivate, mold, and impact not only the youth of Fayetteville, but also Fayetteville as a whole, and just make it a better place for everyone in the end.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Oh.
One more thing. So, if you know any outstanding or just highly achieving teen that you think would be a great fit for our amazing organization, you can send them to our very first meeting of the year, August 20th, held at our awesome, lovely office building donated by the citizens of Fayetteville, North Carolina, at 725 West Rowan Street at 6 to 8:30 p.m. And they can know more about our organization and hopefully be a part of an amazing thing here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Hare?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. If I could, just want to put in the airwaves that on August 25th, it is, as I've got it listed on my Facebook page, is Umoja Festival again. So we're inviting everyone over to Seabrook Park, which is 1520 Slater Avenue, and come on over and enjoy yourself. This year we're going to be at the end of the festivities and the culture and the heritage and the drums and the music and the face painting and the health fair, we're going to be looking at the Black Panther movie, and it's going to start at 5 at the end of the festival. When the festival closes, the Black Panther movie will be inside from 5 to 7. That's going to be on August the 25th, starting at 10 to 7 p.m. We're inviting everyone over to the Umoja Festival.
Thank you, Councilmember Hare. And just before we move to the recognitions, I would like to remind all the citizens of Fayetteville, particularly school-age citizens, that the Fay One, Cut My City, Got Your Back, having their annual backpack giveaway, free haircuts, free backpack giveaways. It is this weekend at the Crown Auditorium from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's no charge for it, so come out, get your free haircut, get your school supplies, and let's have a great school year. So at this time, as we move to the recognitions, ask that Colonel Reed, if you would meet me at the podium.
Okay, tonight we're going to read a proclamation from the mayor celebrating Fort Bragg's 100th birthday. The proclamation reads, whereas on September 4th, 1918, Camp Bragg was established in the fall of 1922, it was renamed the Fort Bragg, making it a permanent military post. And whereas, as decades passed, Fort Bragg continued to expand, first with the 82nd Airborne Division and 101st Airborne in 1942, the activation of 18th Airborne Corps in 1951, and in 1952, the opening of the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center and School, and the 10th Special Forces Group were activated. Whereas, as Fort Bragg grew, service members and their families stationed there integrated into Fayetteville and the surrounding areas, bringing friendship and diverse cultures and experiences to the communities. Whereas today, Fort Bragg is home of more than 56,000 service members, over 71,000 family members, and almost 23,000 civilian employees. And whereas the city of Fayetteville is honored to have such a strong relationship with Fort Bragg leadership and soldiers. Now, therefore, I, Mitch Coven, Mayor of the City of Fayetteville, North Carolina, and on behalf of the City Council and more than 2,008 citizens, do hereby honorably proclaim the 4th day of September in the year of 2018 in honor of Fort Bragg's 100th anniversary.
I was told I could say a few remarks.
Oh, yes, sir, please.
Well, to begin with, thank you very much for this recognition. Because as you well know, a lot of things have changed over this last 100 years, not only on the installation, but in our country. Now, as you look at the commitment between the city and Fort Bragg itself, it grows every day. We have about 65% of the installation that lives off the installation. So that is a true testament of the connective interaction that we have with one another. And I appreciate the building of that relationship on a regular basis with not only the city, but the county, as well as the surrounding communities of Fort Bragg itself. And as you look at the mere numbers of that installation, you know that when the 911 call comes, it's coming here, and we, as a community, will feel the impacts of that event around the world. So thank you very much for this recognition, this dedication, and this commitment to not only the leaders of that installation, but all the service members that provide the defense of our nation. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, and I just want to make sure the listening audience knows Colonel Reed is the garrison commander at Fort Bragg, and he has responsibility like a city manager for all the installation, utilities, and services, and it's quite a job, and sir, we appreciate all that you do out there and for the community.
And thank you, Colonel Reed. You all are a great partner, and every time we need you, you're right there on the spot. So we thank you for the relationship. And we'd also like to mention that we are joined by phone by Council Member Tisha Waddell. Ms. Waddell, are you present?
I'm here.
All right. All right, so we'll be referring to you red or green as we proceed through the night. All right, next we will have the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternities, those sharp-dressed gentlemen that are sitting on the second row. They have a special presentation to Chief Hawkins, or Fayetteville PD Sergeant Mr. Pedro Orellano. If I mispronounce your name, sir, please forgive me.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Brown. I'm the Epsilon Rho Lambda chapter president of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and we are honored to be here with you today. The fraternity take pride in our commitment to the Fayetteville community. We're proud to honor Sergeant Pedro Orellano as the 2016-2017 Police Officer of the Year. Our mission statement is to develop leaders, promote brotherhood and academic excellence while providing service and advocacy for the communities. This is what Sergeant Orellano helped bring to our city. We look to honor officers like him, civil servants, and leaders who continue to serve and give unselfishly to our city and our communities. Thank you. Thank you.
you so much.
Yes, sir, and thank you for what you do, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. Alpha.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, at this time, we will have, we'll ask that Mr. Rick McDowell and Councilmember Bill Crisp. Oh, yeah, caught you off guard, didn't we?
How you doing, boss?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, please. Yeah, show them, please. Honorable Mayor, councilmen and women, pro tem mayor, and city clerk. This gentleman told me a story. Back in March, when I came here to talk to you all, off guard, he lost his platoon leader in Vietnam, Captain Myron Pook. Sorry about that, boss man. I got tear eyes. He was born in Wesley, Ohio in 1943. He went to ROTC, got a bachelor's degree, and went to Vietnam, volunteered. He got promoted to captain while he was watching a movie or a play. His base camp got rocketed, and he took a frag in the eye and went into his brain on the 21st of July of 1968. In 1968, the next day, the 22nd, he passed in a hospital in Vietnam. He was a personal good friend of the boss here, personal valored individual for our country. He was a volunteer and he was an officer. He led good men, such as the boss right here. It's my honor and the Run for the Wall honor. You okay, Bob? What we'd like to do, I don't need a speaker. What we'd like to do is present to you, sir. You couldn't go to the wall, so I brought the wall to you. Myself, my assistant, Richard did the rub we found. He's located 5 West, number 35. What I also did is put in the center, and I'd like to present you to President Obama in 2016 welcomed home our Vietnam vets from a 50-year, not an anniversary, but support to our nation. Our Vietnam vets did not get the recognition that they deserved. So the President of the United States, God bless him, got a 50-year pin. And sir, I'd be honored if I could pin this on you. From a grateful nation, and most importantly, a grateful President SecDef. Welcome home.
You know, I want to apologize for becoming emotional. It's difficult when you lose your leader. And in July of 1968, a long time ago, but I've never been able to visit the wall because I know Captain Pook is on that wall. And I feel like I failed him. Maybe I didn't do enough. And maybe it was fate. But I came home walking, and he did not come home walking. Thank you for bringing him to me. I will cherish this, and I will always remember Captain Myron J. Pook. Excuse me for becoming emotional, but I ain't sorry about it.
Wow. Mr. McDowell, thank you for that, sir. Thank you, Sergeant Major, for your service to the country.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something? Just a little tidbit. This Sunday, I had the privilege of taking my family to church service where Mr. Chris said a sermon. And I just want to let y'all know, this is the second time this week this man has made me cry and be so proud. So we really have he is a hero, and everybody that knows him loves him, and I just want to let him know that my family appreciates you and all the wisdom that you have given us.
Thank you. Wow. All right. Council, as we move to our next recognition, also a very important part of our community, the Icon Intern Recognition. Noted Councilmember Waddell, Councilmember Wright, myself, and Assistant City Manager Jay Reinstein, if you could come to the podium. And there are a number of Icon interns that are present. If you all could meet us at the podium as well. I wouldn't think so. I mean, yeah, when it's time to.
What we'll do, we'll have you guys to line up here. When they call your name, you come up and receive your award. And then go back and we'll have the council to recognize you. And you can shake their hand as you go back to your spots. You can get one final picture with all of you, okay? All right, so just come around this way, and we don't know what order your name will be. So whenever they call your name, you come up, read the names and your shot, go back to your location. Council member, you can.
Okay, I have a list of names here with the names highlighted, who we believe who are present. First one, Henry O'Brien from the 219 group. Marissa Carter worked in environmental services. Victoria Carter worked with legal and risk management.
Victoria.
Treyez Diaz, field utility services. Jaron Reed, developmental services. No. Okay. Maya Williams, developmental services. Tyrell Dickerson from finance. Kaylee Taylor, finance. Renee Williams, human resources. Rainey, I'm sorry. Oh. Ulysses Crawford, information technology. Ismael Galarza, public services. Man. Michaela Drake, Police Department.
You want to get a picture with us? Trying to get out of here.
And last one I'm tracking is Edward Lake, working up in a big office with the city manager. And then program support, I know Mr. Reinstein and Miss Andrea Tebby probably want to have a few words along with the mayor.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, thank you for this opportunity. On behalf of myself and Councilwoman Waddell that's on the phone. How you doing, Councilmember Waddell?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm so glad to be on the phone with you guys right now.
Great. And also city staff and Jay Reinstein for this program. Now, this is a 3-year-old program, and it's coming along very well. And I just want to say how proud we are of our youth in this summer program as well. This summer program started with myself and former Councilman Kirk Deviere, and has grown to be something that the mayor, the city council, and the city is very proud of. One thing that I note that from the young people that come aboard in the summertime, you guys make us very proud. And we have hope for a future leaders of our city, our state, and our country. So congratulations. All that you learned, you understand responsibility, waking up on time, getting to work, and all that stuff, and you got a little money in your pocket for the summer. So we appreciate you very, very much. At this time, we're going to hear a few words from Jay.
Be very few words. This program would not happen without the support of our elected officials. So thank you so much. And it's been a great partnership with PwC, with NC Works, and also with Cumberland County Schools and our private sector folks. We've grown from about 14 students in year 1 to about 22 students in year 2. And this year, this is only some of the students. We had a total of about 35 or 36 students. So with your support, we'll continue to grow the program. Thank you. And also special thanks to Andrea Tebby, who's really been the glue that's held this program together. So thanks to everybody, and appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think it's only befitting to give Councilmember Waddell opportunity to have a few remarks. I know she worked very hard with these young leaders. Councilmember Waddell?
I'm here. Jay, do we have that video?
No, ma'am. Did you want to have a few remarks?
Okay, well then let me just say this. You guys, I'm very proud of each of you. I think that this is a very monumental accomplishment. Summer work is more than just summer work. It's a start toward a very, very optimal career later on in life. So every lesson that you've learned this summer, take it and run with it. You guys go out and tell your friends to tell a friend. And adults in the audience, if you own a business or know a business owner, consider partnering with the city next year so that we can provide more opportunities for summer hire for these young people in the future. Good job, you guys.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Councilmember Waddell. And I will not belabor this, but a few years ago when this started with Councilmember Wright and Councilmember Deviere, it was only an idea. I was at the National League of Cities and was challenged by the leadership in Savannah, Georgia, who strive for 500 every year, 500 interns. And so Fayetteville, we've got work to do. Business owners like myself, I have to lead by example, so I will make sure that I and my company are a participant in this program. But all of the business leaders and people in the community, we've got work to do to reach a goal of in excess of 500 because I bragged about it. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you that our city is in great hands in the future. Thank you.
I want to get a group shot with the mayor, so just come in the middle as well, and after we do the shot, let our council congratulate you on the job well done. Just come on down, tighten it up a little bit here.
And if we could get in really close and tight. All right, everybody look into the camera in 3, 2, 1, big smile and cheese.
I hope you guys Photoshop me into the picture.
Congratulations.
Mr. Mayor, I want to also say we want to recognize the principal of 71st High School, Principal Williams. Mr. Williams is here. His daughter also was a part of the program in 71st High School. Thank you for coming out. All the parents that supported your children, thank you, parents. Without you, there will be no them. And that's the truth. Literally.
All right, council. Great recognitions tonight. We'll give a few minutes for the transition of the room and our future leaders. All right, council. Move along to item 5.0 is the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem to approve the agenda, second by Councilmember Wright. Any discussion on the motion? All right, council, I look to you for votes.
Green.
Madam Clerk, that is unanimous. Item 6.0 is the consent agenda. I see a couple of lights. Councilmember Hare.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like, whenever we go back to approve, unless that's done initially, I want to pull item 6.017 for up or down vote.
Okay, I would also see Councilmember Dawkins, and I think I see Councilmember Arps like.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Motion to approve the consent agenda, pulling 6.017, pulling 6.013, and is there any other items that need to be in the motion?
All right, I think that's it. So is
That's the motion.
Okay, there's a motion by Councilmember Dawkins. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Crisp. Any discussion on the motion? All right, council, I look to you for action.
Green.
Madam Clerk, that is also unanimous with Councilmember Waddell's green. All right, item 6.013.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's going to have Ms. Blott come up and discuss the Economic and Community Development Annual Action Plan and explain why we are doing this, why we have to do this since there's some additional federal dollars at stake. Ms. Blott?
That's correct. Hello, Mayor, members of City Council. The reason we are back here presenting the annual action plan is you did approve the action plan back in April. However, we received a notice from HUD that our allocation actually increased by $385,000. We received that notification in May. We then did an analysis of which programs we had that had received approval, what funding had been allocated to each of those, and then which programs were in most need that we ran out of funding throughout the year. So we addressed those first, the high demand programs, which ones you'd had approved, and then the funding we had been allocated. So if you can look up on the monitor, it's a little hard to read, but the increase from home funds, which was a total of $257,955, we allocated $217 to housing rehab, $40,000 to the admin, and then on CDBG we had an increase of $127,066. So we increased acquisition and demolition by $40,000. We increased an additional $10,000 to the job skills program, additional $60,000 to the sewer and water program, which we ran out of funds quite early this year, and then an additional $17,000 to program admin. So the changes were in the actual allocations to the programs, not to any of the programs themselves. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Block. I had originally mentioned that this item just be explained. You had some very critical services and needs of the community involved in your department. And as you've talked about housing rehab, and I don't want to belabor this point, what have you identified specifically what the additional 217 will be used for? Because we've got a lot of blighted neighborhoods, and we really need to kickstart reinvestment.
That's correct, and we run out of money because the demand is so great for housing rehab. So the program in place right now is up to $29,999 in services for any type of housing rehabilitation program. Now, the applicants have to meet the guidelines of the program, low to mod income, but we have a waiting list every year. So this is something that we see as a very, very critical need in our community. So that's why the majority of those funds went to that program.
Okay, and how can the citizens reach you if they want to apply for these dollars?
So they can contact our department. They actually should contact Barbara Little. She is the program administrator for the housing program. All of the other programs that have been increased are within CDBG at all and home. They just need to contact our department and we'll put them in the right.
You have that number?
Place. Sure. It's 433-1933, area code 910.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Art?
Yeah, thank you. Quick question. You said 40,000 additional dollars were allocated to A&D, and A&D is what?
Acquisition and demolition.
Acquisition and demolition. So 25%, it's a 25% increase in A&D for an additional 127,000? That just seems a little bit maybe out of sorts. That's why I'm asking.
Well, we have quite a waiting list for acquisition and demolition. You're right, we received 127,000. We are increasing that, our typical 60,000 allocation for a total of 100,000, and the additional 40,000. It's where we saw the greatest needs. That's where we allocated the funding. You'll notice that the home increase, there's only 4 programs that the home funds can really go to, and so we went to the greatest need in that program. CDBG, again, we knew that our biggest shortfall this year was in the water and sewer connection program, so we allocated the 60,000 there. But I'm
just asking the question because I want to make sure I understand. So by taking $40,000, we're acquiring more properties. Would that money not be better used against existing properties, and then we acquire those other properties later?
So it's an A&D program, but it's primarily for demolition. The homeowners keep the property. They keep the land. It's typically a property that's in such blight. However, if it is on the city's master plan of land acquisition, that's when we acquire it for future development of a larger area that we're perhaps trying to get a lot of the property in one specific area. But we're trying to not spot acquire properties any longer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Art. Councilmember Dawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Cynthia. Appreciate that. One of the issues was we need to approve this because of a timing issue since we kind of took the month of July off except for a very short meeting. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 6.013.
There's a motion by Councilmember Dawkins, a second by Councilmember Wright. As we discussed the discussion phase, Ms. Blott, my main thing is just to communicate what's available. I know some of the challenges in the past have been we've had programs, but citizens, they weren't well used. And so certainly we all support this, and we know you're on a time frame, and I respect the motion on the floor. But I would just like to ask, I understand that the job skills program was very well used the last time. Can you tell the citizens what that is? What the city actually does?
Sure. So we actually pay for students who are attending a trades program, either at the community college or another recognized trades program where they leave with a certification to go into the trades programs. The 10,000 went very quickly. So we're hoping with an additional 10,000 we can serve more students. We are seeking other funding sources for this program because it's so successful. is one of those, we need more time to develop it and actually get more grants from other funding sources. CDBG and home funds are really limited, and we know that, but we feel this is a really important program that we want to expand on. We just are limited in.
So we have to get Doug to give you some money, right?
Yes.
All right. So this is beauticians, barbers, brick masons, welders, all of those
Electricians,
trades.
yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, council, any further questions? All right, look to you for action.
Green.
All right, Madam Clerk, that is 9-1. Voting in opposition is Councilmember Art. Voting in favor was Chris, Councilmember Culleton, Councilman Wright, Colvin, Mayor Pro Tem Moan, Jensen, Hare, Dawkins, and Waddell by phone. Thank you. Right, moving right along to, was there another item pulled, guys?
17, sir.
6.017, Councilmember Hare?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if anyone needs to come up to.
Ms. Keisha.
Yes, Ms. Tanisha. Yes, well, I was really bringing it up, Mayor, because I could not support this condemnation as we discussed this during our work session. This is additional properties that it needed for the downtown parking project across from the our transfer center. And it's just something still, being a small businessman, it's just been difficult for me to condemn properties and take those properties away. So I really wanted an up and down vote tonight.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Keisha, you want to kind of explain, give us some background to this project?
Yes, and I also want to make sure that we put a new resolution in your packet before the meeting, because there was an error in the one that I had put in the agenda. So I just want to make sure that we resolve that and that everybody's good with that. The project for the parking was brought forth in June. We have contacted the property owners, and as you're aware, there are some title issues with some of the properties that are going to require eminent domain action. And there's also the other properties are not willing to sell. So as we spoke about it Monday night, I had asked for authorization to move forward with eminent domain, because really that's our only option at this point. If we do want to do a parking lot in that area, we have no other choice.
One more thing, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
And thank you. And just one more thing. I'm not, as I was saying, not in support of the item, but as far as payment for the properties, kind of tell us how we go about that, just in case we go down this road again for another property.
In an eminent domain action, the city does pay fair market value. That's a requirement as part of the action. What happens is we deposit that amount of money in the at the courthouse as part of the action, and then once it is settled, the money is dispersed to the property owners per their allocation for the interest that they have in the property. And what I mean by that is, like, one of the properties that we own is owned by 3 different individuals, or one of the properties that we're trying to acquire, is owned by 3 different individuals. One individual owns a 2/3 interest, and the other 2 own a 1/6 apiece. So those interests have to be dealt with. They are only paid for the interest in which they own.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
All right, I do have a couple other questions. Councilmember Dawkins and then Culleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for coming up and explaining all this stuff again. Yeah, I appreciate it. Do we plan on selling any of these 4 pieces of property to any private entity so that they can develop it?
No, sir, not that I've been told. It is my understanding it will be developed as a parking lot. It will be used for public parking and also for employee parking because of all the parking that's been lost downtown with the new development. And one more question, Mr. Mayor. Madam Attorney, if I do make the motion for this item, can I specify in there that these 4 parcels will not be sold to a private party? Is that allowable?
Mr. Dawkins, that's actually not permissible.
Not permissible. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Culleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you go over a little more detail about how the value is obtained, the fair market value, and does that include highest and best use for that property as well?
No, in our eminent domain actions, we use the tax value as our starting point. Once it is actually, if it goes to a jury trial, then the court determines the value. But we start at fair market value, which is considered tax value in this state.
And so the property owner would have to argue that, debate that, to take it to the court's decision.
Yes.
We have the attorney's light on, Madam Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, and I did want to just add, expound on Ms. Parker's response. We do start, as she said, with the tax value. At times when we get into the negotiation process, it may be that we have the property appraised to try to reach some agreement. If we are unable to reach agreement after the property has been appraised and are not able to work it out through mediation or other alternative negotiations, then it would go to, as Ms. Parker said, it would end up going to a jury trial and the jury determining that final value to pay to the property owner.
And at that time, Mr. Attorney, who's responsible for those court costs? Is that property owner have to front those costs to take that to court to fight that action?
I'm sorry,
Does the
not
property
sure.
owner, if they want to fight that action and go through the court proceeding, do they have to front the cost to do that?
We would actually file the lawsuit, but certainly any attorney's fees that would be required, they would have to front those. And certainly if a jury were to award attorney's fees, then that would be paid as a part of the judgment. But the city would initiate the condemnation action if we're not unable to reach an agreement.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Keisha. I do know I kind of am torn on this one. I hate to take property, but some of these you don't have a choice. I guess like friendly condemnations with multiple owners. And the other thing that we want the public to make sure, we've all received several calls from Subway and Amtrak and those folks that are impacted by this growth spurt downtown, and we need some additional parking to accommodate some of this. So, but is there a motion to move forward on this, Council?
Mr. Mayor, I did have a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor,
Ma'am?
I just want to make one comment before we move forward with the vote.
Okay.
I just want to, I'd like to remind, I just want to remind, I guess, council and the viewing public that condemnation is something that comes up whenever we're trying to move forward with other ideas throughout the city. So I want us to be mindful while we're having that conversation that it's not necessarily that we're trying to, and this is really for the viewing public, it's not necessarily that a condemnation is an effort to take away something from a private landowner. It's more the ability to be able to move forward with the productivity in the city for the greater good of the majority of the city. So even when we're talking about sidewalk projects, and we may have to go in and consider condemnation of private property in order to expand sidewalks. So this is very likely a conversation that will be had again, and I just want us to kind of keep that in mind as we're looking at this particular project. And I think that it's an excellent example you give, Mayor Colvin, of the subway and the lack of parking and just the need for more parking in our downtown area.
Thank you, Councilmember Waddell. Councilmember Art.
So thank you, and that's a great segue into the question I was going to ask. What's the current usage rate for the parking deck, the Franklin Street parking deck?
I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that. I have no.
Yeah, but so here's my point. It's not 100% capacity. It's not 50% capacity. On a daily basis, it's not 50%. It's probably not 30%, is it, Rob? Yeah, but we're going to condemn somebody's land for parking. I have a problem with this. I'll just say that. There are times when condemnation is the right answer, and you have to go that way. I don't think we're at that point. And I think one of the things the council's discussed is we want to get out of the parking business. We don't want to buy more parking lots, but yet that's what we're doing. We're buying more parking lots, and we have an underutilized parking deck right now. So I just remind everybody of that. Before you take this vote, you ought to think about those aspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Art. Council, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we deny the authorization of condemnation.
There's a motion by Councilmember Art to deny. There's a second by Councilmember Hare. Any discussion on the motion? And this motion is to deny. So council will look to you for your votes to deny.
Green.
All right, all votes in. Madam Waddell, your vote is green to deny, correct?
Yes, I had a question. Are we past asking questions?
We kind of were, yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, green.
Okay. All right. Okay, so green, a vote in the affirmative is to deny the condemnation. That means it dies.
I understand that. My question is, if we deny this now, is there a time frame within which it can come back up again, or is it denied indefinitely?
Someone on the affirmative side has to resubmit that. Is that correct, Madam Attorney?
If it doesn't pass, they can revote tonight.
It can't come back for an immediate vote. It's a year.
No, I mean like in 6 months, if we've got booming parking downtown and we need more parking, then can we look at it again? Or is this indefinitely taking it off of the table?
Madam Attorney, you want to clean this up for us?
Give me 1 minute, Mayor.
Mayor, while the attorney is looking up her additional information, I thought I was understanding that if this is not passed on this vote here, that anyone that opposes it has an opportunity to make another motion tonight.
If you are on the winning side of this motion, you can resubmit it for reconsideration. Is that right, Mr. Attorney?
No, if you're on the opposing side.
No, I mean, this is for the denial,
Right.
is what this motion is.
Right.
So someone on the opposite side could bring it back after 6 months.
Someone who voted green, right?
No, somebody who votes red, because the motion
For 6 months,
is a
okay.
negative
I thought it
motion.
was a year, but okay, I'm with you.
So, Mr. Mayor, to answer the councilwoman's question, if we have a booming parking situation in 6 months, I'll be happy to bring it back up.
All right, let's get it on, you all. All right, all votes in. Madam Waddell, you are green, correct?
Correct.
All right, Madam Clerk, that motion to deny passes. Those 7-3, those voted in favor of the denial.
Did somebody push my button?
Yeah, we've got two people voting twice. All right. All right, you guys. All right. Council, I'll look to you for action. Mr. Art, would you please restate your motion?
The motion is to deny the authorization of condemnation of properties needed for downtown parking project. That would be a green button if you
Yes.
support that motion.
Second here, Mayor.
Okay, there's a motion to deny by Councilmember Art. There's a motion, a second by Councilmember Hare.
Yes, sir.
We have had discussion. Now it's time to vote, Council. To discuss, okay. Councilmember Dawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason that we wanted to take this action was because we are building a $38 million baseball stadium. And I have heard every single week from our citizens that, well, where are all these people going to park? Well, this is one situation where it would make sense. Now, Councilman Art brings up a good point about the parking deck that behind the PWC or behind the city-owned PWC building, in that a lot of folks don't want to walk that far. This is a whole lot closer to that baseball stadium. And I believe that was kind of the intent of staff, plus to improve that area. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And that's a great point. Councilmember Art, you had was that your vote, sir? Okay, and I did as well. So, if you're familiar with across the street where the Amtrak is, I've had numerous citizens tell me that they feel unsafe getting off the train after 12 o'clock at night, crossing the tracks, going to the only available parking, which is across the street. We discussed it in the work session. I brought it to be discussed. They are building a building less than 15 to 20 feet from the end of that building. So parking is no longer an option at that particular parcel. And you know the distance from the train station to the PWC parking deck is not practical for a lot of people in this community, seniors and particularly folks coming in on the late 12 o'clock Amtrak train. So this was a growing pain, self-created by the council, and I think that it's incumbent upon us to figure this out. But, you know, everybody can vote in the way that you choose to vote. Those are my comments. Councilmember Art?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, when the decision was made on the baseball stadium, a parking study was done, and within, if I'm not correct, or if I am correct, within a quarter mile, there's like 1,800 parking spaces. Within a half a mile, there's over 2,100, almost 2,200 parking spaces. That's current today. This is a situation where, do you take the government and you try to create parking, or do you allow free enterprise, people to come in and create parking where they can do it, maintain it, and make money at it? There's a lot of entities downtown that'll be willing to take properties and be able to turn it into a cash flow opportunity if they're parking late at night. The other thing we need to look at is, I was down at the airport at Myrtle Beach last week, and a lot of airports have gone to these kiss and ride concepts and temporary parking where you can pull up and it's text and park while you're waiting for somebody to be picked up. You've got a satellite location, and they can tell you when they've arrived, and then you can swing into a through lane and pick them up. There's creative ways we can solve our parking, but it doesn't have to be the city builds parking every time we need parking.
Thank you, Councilmember Art. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor Colvin. And Ms. Parker, earlier, in one parcel has a IRS tax lien on it. Two of the parcels, you can't find the owner, so that would require condemnation, right? Or was that the ma'am that you made contact with today, and based on her email to council, she's okay with it now? And she
Yes.
decided not to show up tonight to speak in opposition.
Yes.
And that came from her to all of our emails.
And
so-
she had spoken to the unknown, unfound owner, who was also willing to. Now, I do need to point out on that, because that's an interest parcel, I can't purchase just their interest.
Right.
Without having the man who owns the 2/3 interest.
Right.
So if they're interested in selling and he's not interested in selling, then it has to be an eminent domain action, because I can't buy just a part of the
So
parcel.
multiple heirs own that one parcel, so two may want to sell, one may not, and so that little tiny thing will sit there for years
Yes.
unless they come to an agreement. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, council, any further questions? All right, for the third time, let's ask for your votes. Your motion again, Mr. Art.
Mr. Mayor, the motion is to deny authorization of condemnation of properties needed for downtown parking project. That would be a green light.
All right. Ms. Waddell?
Green.
Great. Madam Clerk, that motion fails. 5-5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, she's green.
That's right.
She's green, and that's 5. And there's 5. So those voting in favor of the motion was Councilmember Culleton, Arp, Jensen, Hare, and Waddell. Those voting in opposition were Councilmember Crisp, Wright, Colvin, Moan, and Dawkins. Motion dies. All right, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, Mayor Colvin, can we try it the other way?
Or would you accept a friendly amendment?
Well, it's over, the vote's over, so you can't amend.
But if you're going to vote the other way, would you accept a friendly amendment?
Oh, sure.
Let make his motion and you come.
The motion is to approve the resolution authorizing the coordination action for the purchase of lots for downtown parking to complete the proposed CIP project, which is a CIP.
There's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilmember Wright, and I see Councilmember Art.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Mayor Pro Tem, since we've had some revelations of additional information today, would you be willing to postpone this and allow staff to go back based off of the new information of some of the property owners being interested and see if we can do this without condemnation? I'm fully supportive without condemnation, if there's a way to acquire the property without taking it.
Madam Attorney?
Mayor, I just wanted to point out that this just begins the process. So we still have to notify the owner through a written letter, have to attempt the negotiation process, and then if we are unable to reach an agreement, it would come back to the council to approve the lawsuit or the initiation of the actual condemnation lawsuit. So this my real estate manager said I got that part wrong. But this does, so let me go back. This starts the process, so we still have to negotiate with them. As Ms. Parker has said, although there are some that are willing to sell because of air issues, we still would have to file that lawsuit. Although I think somebody mentioned it would be a friendly condemnation action, it still we would have to initiate that lawsuit in order to
get a clear title.
To get clear title. So this just starts the process. It doesn't mean that we're not going to talk to these people and try to reach some resolution without going through the actual formal litigation process, because there is a cost to both sides to do that. And so it really does behoove us to try to reach some resolution.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. All right, Councilmember Hare.
Yes. The friendly discussion that you were speaking of, is that 11283? Is that lot? The last 4 digits, is that the lot you were talking about?
I don't have the map in front of me, so
Oh.
I'm not sure.
The one that abuts the city's already parking space?
Yes. Yes, it is. The
Yes,
parcel with the little building on it, yes, sir.
Right, with a little building on it. So
Yes.
now, if my understanding correctly, you've already had a discussion with half, or,
1/3.
okay, 1/3 means that's, how many more is it? One?
There is one individual that owns 2/3 interest.
Oh, it's 2, okay, gotcha.
There's 2 individuals that own 1/6 apiece, which is 1/3 total. They are brothers. There is another individual who is not related to them who owns 2/3 interest in it.
Okay, so the one that owns the 2/3, you're saying, the 128 lot, the 1283 lot is in favor?
The one that owns 1/3.
Okay, my question is this, Ms. McDonald, because I understand what we're trying to do. I do understand the complaints that we're receiving about parking, especially at the Amtrak. I've gotten those calls on a number of occasions. You're saying that this just starts the process. So if I was to pour my second back to allow the city to continue to move forward with their process, will I still have another opportunity on the condemnation?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Right, so I'm just putting this in perspective. So you've got an owner out of Omaha, Nebraska, and it's a .06
Of an acre.
of an acre, not even 1/10 of an acre, 0.6 of one, the other one in Eastover, 0.14 acre. These are side by side. Then one in Rayford, 0.08 acre, not even 1/10 of an acre. So these are non-buildable parcels. You can't do anything with them. They're too small. So those 3 combined is 0.28 acre. And then the other little parcel where the 2 family members want to sell is roughly also about 0.4 of an acre. I mean, so I just put that in my mind perspective.
And that was an excellent point. That was going to be my point, that many different owners on these small lots, the only way that this is going to be any meaningful project done is if they're banked together, and it's hard to do other than the route we're taking from what I'm hearing. So, Councilmember Chris?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. My concern, there are a number of concerns, but I'll tell you the one that I'm back and forth on this issue because I don't want the city in the parking lot business. That's the first thing. But in spite of that, we've got a serious problem of not having parking for Amtrak customers. Okay? So we've got to come up with some kind of parking in that area, and also this would facilitate easy access to the ball field when games are played. But the greater concern I have is this. We have made it perfectly clear that we want to get this city out of the parking lot business. okay? I don't want to venture into this, condemn and buy these properties from people, and we tell them that this is for the greater good of the many, and then we turn around and sell this parking lot to a private entity. And that's the thing that I can't go with, okay? Either the city's got to keep it and run it, but we need to be straightforward and upfront. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the best course of action is to see if we can get a private enterprise to buy this and turn it into a paid-for parking lot. Thank you.
Well, city manager has a comment, but take in mind you're dealing with 5 different owners for these small pieces. And so the private sector option, I don't think is practical when you have air property and IRS liens. So, city manager.
There also, I just want to point something out too. There also is in statute that when we condemn property, if we're not using it for the purpose in which we condemned it for, we can offer it back to the people that we condemned to give it back to them.
And I hear you, Ms. Parker, but the issue here is, if we condemn this and build a parking lot, and then the city wants to get out of the parking lot business, as we've expressed before, and we sell it to a private enterprise, did we bilk these people out of their properties? That's the question. Thank you.
Mr.
All right.
Mayor? Mr.
Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
Council, in order to sell property, it requires council action. And I can't just sell it. I mean, it has to go through council for y'all to do it. It is not a very large lot, but it would be a companion lot to a parcel we bought on the other side of Russell Street. I do hate we don't have a better map, but the property, for the folks who may not be familiar with it, it is adjacent to the railroad track, and it is catawampus to our transit center.
Catawampus?
Catawampus. You understand, yeah. It's
broad vocabulary.
And I'm from Brunswick County, I'm sorry, Catawampus. And it is, as the council will know, we have been very reluctant to bring any items about condemnation unless it has been for one of the council's higher stated purposes, because we understand that council has a real aversion to that. But given the various ownership interests of all 4 of the very small parcels, this appeared to be the most expedient way in which to make that happen. And that's one of the reasons that it was on tonight for the council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
But the one that shows 68.02, and then at the top of this, those are city-owned lots. And so we would have a contiguous lot from Franklin Street all the way over to Russell Street, across Russell Street, and to what used to be, what was the name of that bar? Was it Cloud 9? Cloud 9. So we would have parking all the way along, what is that? Winslow Street, and that's why we brought it tonight.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Wright, and then Arp and Cullins. Oh, my.
This is a good conversation on both sides. The city is growing, and we're experiencing growing pains. Given the information on these lots, being that they're so small, the Assistant Mayor Pro Tem brought a great point, Mayor Pro Tem Moan, about the smallness of all of these lots, which being put together cannot be used in the future for any business type of ventures. So acquiring these properties, I look at, we're getting ready to put the ball field across the street, and we're talking about future growth. And City Council and Art makes a good point about the parking deck. And so when we look at the ballpark and how many people we hope that's going to bring in, utilizing this city and all the entities and stores and all of that downtown, I think extra parking for city staff, the future, I think it's a win-win, and eventually something's going to be done with that property. My question is, City Manager, are we going to be renting these spaces out during the seasons for ballpark play, or it's going to be free parking?
At the moment, we have underway a parking plan, Christoph, a parking study for downtown that will help inform staff and council as to how best to utilize the limited parking we have, not only on a daily basis, but for special events. But the short answer is to anticipate that we would be renting this out for, or have it as paid parking for our baseball games as well, because that is part of the funding model that that the council established for the baseball stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer is yes.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Culleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I hope that everybody sees that this council doesn't take this lightly. We're all wrestling with it because this is an important thing. I think it goes against some of our own moral American fiber of taking someone's land. To that, though, I just want to clarify, so all these lots are not buildable at this point for any purpose because of their size or?
That would be my understanding. It is in the downtown, is it not? And so there is not a parking requirement per se for them to build in the central business district. But the lots are, it's a very, very small lot. It looks much bigger here than it does when you're actually out walking.
So they're not buildable. They couldn't put a structure on this. They're not really usable?
That I do not know.
I'm sorry?
That I do not know.
My question is, if they're not buildable, are they going to be saleable in a private sector at any rate?
All right. All right. Yes, sir. Councilmember Art.
Okay, so if you look at those parcels in a vacuum and you just say, these parcels collectively put together, you could make the argument that there's not enough room there to build anything, okay? But I think that's a very narrow perspective, because if you look at the parcel directly next to those parcels, it's a half an acre. And then there's another parcel that's adjacent to that that's about 4/10 of an acre. And so what we're doing is, well, I'm looking at the Cumberland County GIS, so unless it's wrong, that's what you're looking at. So what I'm saying is, as downtown begins to develop, and these properties downtown, which haven't been very valuable, become very valuable, there'll be a private developer who will come in, and instead of wanting to offer $16,000 for a piece of property, which is the tax value of the property, they might try to cobble a whole deal together and not just buy those little properties, but buy the adjacent half-acre properties and other properties to put something together they can develop. And so, I think what we're doing is, by going in and doing this, we're limiting the opportunity for private development to come downtown, taxable development to come downtown on some very expensive real estate in the future. And again, I just advocate, we got a parking deck that's woefully underutilized right now. Okay, and I think we're looking at this in a very narrow perspective when we should be looking long-term. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And I'm going to Councilmember Jensen, but I just wanted to point out, the private process will work. You just have no control over how long it will take to work. We've lost public parking spaces because of a public-private project across the street, and that's a lot of P's. But we lost half of the parking lot at the Amtrak, and now we've got our senior citizens and people that patronize that commercial form of transportation, okay, which we are so far behind our municipal peers. You have cities like Raleigh's that are building Union stations, and we have a train station that hadn't been invested in over 50 years. It didn't look like it. We've taken half of the parking lot. We're impacting a business owner that's in there. As we talk about the private sector, let's look at what the public has done to create this problem. I think that private conversation and all this negotiation probably should have taken place before we started breaking ground across the street. And so now we've impacted these folks' business, and now we're saying we're going to wait and let the private market take care of it. But what happens to these businesses and what happens to our citizens in the meantime? Councilmember Jensen.
Okay, I feel like I had to jump into the conversation. I tried real hard not to. I have two questions. On the land that is 0.15 acre, and I guess my question is, a house, if we put a house that had 0 lot lines, how big is that? what is the dimensions? So I guess my question is, when we say this is very small and there's not an area that we have to have parking, a building can be put on there. On one of these things, is my question. Not a big building, but somebody could put a law office there.
I don't know the answer to that because I'm not in zoning or development services, so I hesitate to answer that question and be wrong.
Okay, I know, I understand, I'm just trying to, and I understand, and it's like Councilmember Colleton said, we're having a hard time because there's a need for it, but just taking somebody's property away is very hard, and it's very hard for me to do. I understand that everybody needs this parking, but the people that own this, whether it's a blessing for them for us to take it or not, they didn't do anything to make us take their land away. And that's kind of where I feel that right now, if you own a piece of land downtown and you haven't done anything with it, is the city going to come take it for parking? And that is the big question that I have to ask myself is, because it hasn't been used, it hasn't been utilized, if you own something downtown and you haven't done anything with it, but you've paid your taxes on it, is the city going to say, I need it more than you do?
All right. Well, I think this has been litigated, so what's our action here, council?
You made the,
Was there a motion on the floor, sir?
you made the motion. Yeah, and I
Can you repeat it for us?
Yes, the motion is to approve the resolution authorizing the condemnation action for the purchase of lots for downtown parking to complete the proposed CIP project.
There's a motion. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilmember Wright. We've had our discussion, so council will look to you to vote, and this is to proceed.
Red.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, that is 6-4. Motion carries. Voting in favor is Councilmember Crisp, Wright, Colvin, Moan, Hare, and Dawkins. Voting opposed, Culleton, Councilmember Art, Jensen, and Waddell by phone. Thank you. All right, council, we'll take maybe a 10-minute break. We'll return at 8:30 and see if we can wrap this up.
People are going down.
We still got a long way to go, man. We gotta think.
We got two presentations and then a public.
Come up with some solutions.
Okay. All right, council, we will call the meeting back into session. Item 7.01, the annual report from the Fayetteville Cumberland Human Relations Commission. Dr. Wade.
Yeah, I did. I apologize.
Good to see you, sir.
Likewise, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of council, it's a pleasure to be with you. At this time, I'm going to yield to the floor to the chair of the Fayetteville Cumberland Human Relations Commission, Ms. Sheila Cuffey, for her report. Madam Chair.
Hello, Ms. Cuffey.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and fellow council members. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be before you. Tonight I only have a few of my members with me. We were sitting there like popsicles. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I'm so glad that you turned the air conditioning down. But I just want to say that it is an honor again to give our report to you all. The department, Human Relations Department and staff have assisted us throughout the year. We appreciate all that they have done, and we appreciate you as a council, along with the county commissioners, for the support that you have given us, the encouragement that we get along the way. So again, I want to say thank you for that. This is my last report as my term comes to an end. The next chair is Ms. Vicki Teachy Dukes for 2018. So she will be gracing you with her presence soon. The commissioners are a great group of individuals and citizens who you appointed, who have worked hard. Vicki Teachy Dukes, who is the vice chair, like I said, will become the chair. Maybelline Rodriguez-Loriana, who is the secretary, will move up to vice chair. Our secretary will be Dr. Mark Kendrick for 2018. Antoinette Morris, who is here with us, is also coming off, and I'd like to say thank you to all the work that she has done. Gregory Fox, Donna Pelham, Ingrid Marthy, Wesley Fountain, Ngozi Kamalu, Kevin Brooks, Zara Cole, Melba Conley, who is also with us, Mark Kendrick, Georgiana Pinckney, Linda Amos, Robert McRae, Lieutenant Colonel Julia Kabiska, Mylette Harris, Sergeant Major Jeffrey Wire, Eric Olson, Crystal Moore Williams, and Technical Sergeant Jesse Dale Walker have all been very active in the past year from 2017 to 18. We've had our strategic planning retreat where we've been busy, and these are some of the highlights for the year. One of the things that I found fascinating was that the Department of Justice contacted and invited the Human Relations Commission to be a part of their Strengthening Police and Community Partnership Making Communities Safer workshop, which entailed us vetting a program, a curriculum they would like to introduce to the nation. So I take it as an honor that our commissioners were selected for that. 2018, Bridging the Gap Community Social. I thank Councilwoman Waddell for inviting the commission to be a part of that. We enjoyed interacting with the citizens here in Fayetteville. 1968, April 1968, your city council established the Human Relations Commission. At that time, Fayetteville Human Relations Committee. And so for 50 years, we've been trying to ensure that our citizens have fairness, equality, and unity as a way of life. The commission has celebrated with our annual recognition reception where the Honorable Mayor Colvin was a part of that. As you see in the picture there, we raised funds for 10 $1,000 scholarships. These are our scholarship winners for 2018, a wonderful, intelligent group of young people who were top in their classes. We also recognized Sergeant Major Robert McRae for 25 years with the Human Relations Commission as one of our Fort Bragg ex officio officers. He's also done 25 years at working with the military and the civilian in human relations with the equal employment opportunity, as well as continues to raise money for our efforts to make sure we have scholarships. So we took our hats off to Sergeant Major Robert McRae, and we recognize him as our Lifetime Achievement winner. The commission has been all over the county, the city, the county, whoever we can collaborate with, if it's to make Fayetteville a place that is a quality place to live, work, and recreate. We've attempted to do that. We have collaborated with the Community Conversation Coalition. We've had executives from all parts of the community to come in for conversations. We've had commissioners, present and past, who have facilitated these conversations within the community. And we try to do this monthly with the Cumberland County Public Library, National Organization of Women, the Quaker House, Delta Sigma Theta, NAACP, and the Cumberland County Teachers Association. As you know, in 2017, there was a spotlight that was being shined on workplace sexual harassment. The commission decided we needed to not just let Hollywood have all of this spotlight, but what we wanted to do was to make our citizens aware of what workplace sexual harassment and sexual assault awareness was all about. So we wanted to give them the tools for prevention, the tools to empower them. So the commission had a symposium in January. We've been in the community, continuing to brand ourselves. We've been at different organizations, different events, festivals. So just teaching the community what we're all about and how we help with discrimination, acts of discrimination. Representative Elmer Floyd, in November of last year, invited all the local commissions to come up to the General Assembly. And it was hosted by the North Carolina Office of Administrative Hearings, where we met for the first time. They have continued to have these types of meetings. I met in June with other local commissions, and hopefully in a few months, Fayetteville will be one of the host locations. We continue to be engaged with the county and other places such as Spring Lake. Spring Lake hosted one of our meetings recently, the Mayor Dobbins. We are grateful to he and his staff for hosting us. We continue to collaborate with organizations such as Greater Fayetteville United, and as you know, 2017, the city invested in a social capital survey that we did throughout Cumberland County. As a partner to them, we hosted the community forum, and we had a readback on that. And the Greater Fayetteville United will be having a forum about this next month, their annual forum. We've engaged with the Latino community, Latinos United for Progress, as well as Fort Bragg. And so our ex officio members, this is Lieutenant Colonel Kabiska, Sergeant Major Wire, Dale Walker. They have been very, very active. They've been embedded with us. There's nothing that we can't ask them to do that they're not available for. So we thank goodness for the assistance and partnership we have with Fort Bragg. Again, your commissioners have been busy. These are some of the things that we've done. We've supported Pathways for Prosperity Initiative, Action Pathways, and Partnership for Children. We've supported several Fair Housing Board events and attended, of course, local commission meetings. So, the bottom line, as of June 30th, 2018, the commissioners have contributed 1,149 hours of volunteer service, resulting in savings in-kind dollars, $26,415.51 in the fiscal year of 2017 to 18. And I can take that by check if you don't mind. So again, it's been an honor to serve you. On behalf of all the commissioners, we say thank you for allowing us to serve this community. They don't take it lightly, and I haven't taken it lightly. And again, thank you for the appointment.
Thank you, Ms. Cuffey, and to all the commissioner members for your service to the city and to this community. You surely make a difference. So, Mayor Pro Tem Moan, and then Councilmember Chris.
Ms. Cuffey and the entire group, thank you so much. I mean, human relations and the pictures, how you showed all the collaborations. I mean, we know you did a lot, but I mean, that I didn't know that much per se, you know, and 4 straight years,
Yes, sir.
and now we can't reappoint you?
No, sir.
Are you sure?
I have to take a break.
Okay.
I have to take at least 1 year break. Isn't that
I
right?
appreciate it, and your husband, you know, Otis, all his support, you know, and we see him out there every month, so, over at the Galatia Church, so thank you so much, ma'am.
You're quite welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Chris.
Ms. Sheila Covey, I was there when you did that 50th anniversary celebration at the Embassy Suites. Wonderful affair. But that was minor compared to what this Human Relations Council has done over the years. And you and others have been an integral part of moving this city forward and bridging the divisive gap in terms of the racism that permeates our society today. You've pushed all the right buttons. And we can't thank you enough for that. You know your husband and I talk about you all the time. But we can't thank you and the members of your commission enough for the things that you have done to end divisiveness and all of these things that stand in the way of progress within our community. I know you got to take a break for a year, but I certainly hope that you and Dr. Waddell will continue to put your imprint upon the Human Relations Council. You have an awful lot to offer. Please don't go home and stay.
Thank you, Mr.
But the new director or president coming on is going to need you sitting beside her to offer sage advice and counsel. And we always look forward to your sage advice and counsel. And I'm sure I speak for the members of this council when I say we cannot thank you, Dr. Wade, and the members of your commission enough for the things that you've done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, looks like Sergeant Major drafted you again. Do have Councilmember Wright.
Yes, you can stay there. Ms. Caffey, I just wanted to say
No,
thank you.
Cuffey.
Cuffey.
Yes.
And because all the years of the Human Relations Council that I've served before I came on council, and all the great things that this commission does, it's a catalyst of bringing people together. And I echo the sentiments of Councilman, what do you call him, the Godfather?
Godfather.
The dean. He took those words out of my mouth, and it just don't seem like you've been in this position for 4 years already?
No, I've been on the commission for 4 years. I've been in the chair for 2.
For 2 years.
Yes, sir.
And you guys do great work, and I just can't imagine what happened before this commission was set up because of the impact that you all have on this community at a time, I would say, where we need human relations the most. You guys fill a gap in our city that really makes a difference, and we just want to thank you for the volunteer work that you do that is so vitally important. God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Jensen.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Ms. Cuffey for all her hard work, and I wanted Tony to stand up too. It's always nice when we're politicians and we're out and we're doing community events that you always turn around and you see these two lovely ladies always involved and always being part of the solution of what's going on in Fayetteville and in Cumberland County, and I do appreciate y'all. But as I say that, I'm going to show you this big book that we have right here for boards and commissions of our residents that come in and want to be part of it. I expect to see your name in something in the next 6 months, the next time we meet, because you're too good for us to lose, to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Mr. Manager, do we need to officially accept the report, or is it just informational purpose? All right, council, need action to accept the report as
Motion to accept the report as presented, Mr. Mayor.
Second that.
There's a motion by Councilmember Arp, second by Councilmember Wright. Any discussion on the motion? All right, council, I'll look to you. Voting to accept. Madam Waddell?
Green.
All right, Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Yeah. All right, item 7.02 is the Fayetteville Fair Housing Board.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, at this time tonight, Eric Anderson was supposed to give the presentation of the report. He is unable to be in here because he's out of state, so as a result, we are joined by one of his board members, Mr. Daniel DeMaria, who will make the presentation for the Fayetteville Fair Housing Board.
Hello, sir.
Good evening, all. City Council members, Mayor Colvin, Mayor Pro Tem Moan, I want to thank you very much for having me here today. Again, my name is Daniel DeMaria. I'm here on behalf of the Fair Housing Board as well as its members, Mr. Eric Anderson, Mr. Otis Cuffey, Miss Mary John Williams, as well as past members, Gwen Wright, Lolita Williamson, and Ella Knox, as well as Dr. Anthony Wade, the Human Relations Director, and Yamil Nazar, the Human Relations Manager. And it's my privilege today to speak on behalf of the Fair Housing Board on what the board has accomplished this year. Oh, thank you very much. So the Fair Housing Board sponsored the Latinos United for Progress Fair Housing Session on August 15th, 2017, wherein the board facilitated training for persons with limited proficiency in English that live throughout our community. We discussed the requirements of fair housing and provided education initiatives for all attendees. Fair Housing Board also helped facilitate the fair housing training for the local chapter of the NAACP on September 24, 2017. We conducted that training with the members of the local Fayetteville chapter of the NAACP. Over 50 members of that local chapter, as well as several more citizens, were in attendance for that event. As part of our long-standing relationship with the community on Fort Bragg, there was a meeting on September 28th of last year where staff of the Human Relations Commission met with Chief of Fort Bragg Housing Greg Jackson, as well as Chief of Fair Housing Services Dale Young. It's always a privilege to help out the community of veterans and active duty soldiers that live throughout the city. And in that case, the Fair Housing Board facilitated training, consultation with, and enforcement of the Fair Housing Ordinance, which actively protects 30,000 soldiers and their families that live off of base. The Fair Housing Board was also proud to sponsor the Fair Housing Training for Action Pathways. Action Pathways is, of course, a wonderful nonprofit here in the city that provides many needed resources for local families and their children. Human Relations Commission staff provided fair housing training on November 9th of last year to aid in enforcement of the housing ordinance, which protects the familial status of our residents. Now, as part of our ongoing outreach to the community to let everybody know what we're doing and the auspices of the Fair Housing Ordinance, HRC Manager Nazar, as well as Director Dr. Wade, conducted an interview with the Reverend David Morrison on WIDU Radio, discussing a wide range of topics, including fair housing enforcement, and the Fair Housing Board's Equal Opportunity and Fair Housing Seminar held on November 14th of 2017. We also sponsored the Fair Housing Training in April of this year to mark the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act. That seminar was held in both English and Spanish and in many locations throughout the city. We also held the Fair Housing and Fair Employment Seminar in City Hall as a further part of those celebrations for the 50th anniversary of Fair Housing. It was hosted by the Human Relations Commission in collaboration with the North Carolina Human Relations Commission, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and included many guest speakers that educated citizens and housing professionals on fair housing and equal employment laws and initiatives throughout the state. Another sponsored activity was the Fair Housing Training for deaf and hard of hearing citizens on June 30th of this year, where American Sign Language interpreters were secured by the department in order to help educate the deaf and hard of hearing citizens of Fayetteville on fair housing and the auspices of the Fair Housing Ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the work that you all do for the citizens of Fayetteville. Let's give them a round of applause also. Council, do we have any questions reference to the report from the Fair Housing Board? If not, I'll look to you for adoption. There's a motion by Councilmember Dawkins to accept the report. Is there a second?
Green.
Okay, wait. Got out ahead of us, madam. There's a second by Councilmember Cullerton. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Council. Now, Madam Waddell.
Green.
Ms. Jensen. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Council.
At this time, we'll enter item 8.0, the public forum. This is a time that any Fayetteville resident may have input and a voice in what goes on in their city. Due to policy restrictions, the forum will not last longer than 30 minutes, and each speaker will be limited to only 3 minutes to address the City Council on issues related to the City of Fayetteville. Individuals wishing to speak at tonight's public forum should have signed up with the City Clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. If you are here to speak on items that may be on tonight's agenda under the public hearing, we ask you to reserve your comments until the public hearing. So when your name is called by the City Clerk, we ask that you come to the podium, clearly state your name and home address for the record. Then when you see the light that's located on the podium change from green to yellow, you have 30 seconds left to speak. When you see the red light come on, that means your time has expired. Again, due to policy restrictions, we are not able to extend the given time. With that being said, Madam Clerk, if you can call the first speaker.
Yes, sir. We have 7 speakers signed up for this evening. Our first speaker is Miss Catherine Perez. Miss Catherine Perez? Not here. Okay. Our next speaker is Miss Latoria Meadows.
Hello to everyone. My name is Latoria Meadows, and I reside at 722 Blue Street, Mount Sinai Apartments. And one of my first comments is I want to say I have no complaints with the bus drivers. They're doing an awesome job. That's the first thing I want to say. Secondly, the seniors, I feel like bus 4, bus 14, and bus 12, where the Senior Citizen Center is closed on Saturday and Sunday. If 14 don't go to Fayetteville Tech on Saturday and Sunday, and 4 don't go to social service on Saturday and Sunday, why does 12 go to the back on Saturday and Sunday, which it shouldn't, because the senior center is not open? It's been times where I'm in the front, they go to the back. I'm in the back, they go to the front. Then that's been going on for a long time. And I just feel like on the weekends, it should be going just straight to the front. Then, just trying to call, the first time Saturday, I tried to make a call, and before I can just dial 1, they say, where my bus? I even put the app on my phone, and sometimes the app be off about where the bus is. And it took like 5 minutes because it's saying, well, bus 11 don't service the Murchison Road. But it just gave me a long speech. So 5 minutes, it took 5 minutes before I could even press 1 because it said the Spanish and all that. And then by that time, I missed the bus. So, I mean, like, and like right now, I want to keep my grounds. And actually, I'm the only one here, I'm not sure, on the bus, but I have no way home now because my bus route is gone. But I stuck it out to say what I want to say. I just feel like on 12 on Saturday and Sunday, since 14 and 4 don't go to social service in the Fayetteville Tech, I don't feel like in the back on Saturday and Sunday because it's not open. And like, that's what I want to say too.
Thank you, ma'am. You said your bus route is
I ride 12, so my time is up. But I wanted to stay and speak my ground. So, and then one more thing, the bus stop in the front, it would be nice if we had a shelter since the senior citizen in the back because it rains. But like my time is up, so I mean I'm scared. I don't gonna be out this time. Like, so.
all right. Have a brief comment, which we usually don't. Is Mr. Hume here? Who's representing, Mr. Manager? Who's
Yes, sir. I think you spoke to Mr. Hume today, ma'am. I'm over here. Over here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. He called me.
Yeah, we
a lot of people ain't,
Yeah, we were made aware by the city clerk whenever we are aware of speakers coming early. We try to talk to them to see if there are issues that we can address. Randy Hume did speak with her today, and he agrees that there are several suggestions and issues which she raised, some of them tonight and some additional ones on the phone, that he and the staff will be looking into. Austin is also here. Are you still on the FACT committee? Oh, well, we, he still comes. That's great. But we did connect today with Mr. Hume, and we'll be following up on some of those activities and issues that she raised with him today.
Thank you. Briefly, Councilmember Wright.
Briefly, just by you being here, ma'am, you done missed your bus home. It lets us know the seriousness of the matter, and we don't take it lightly. You represent many hundreds of others that ride the buses, and we'll make sure that we take care of this matter. So thank you for coming out.
No problem.
Ma'am, can you meet me at the end of the podium? Madam Clerk, can you call your next speaker?
Yes, sir. Our next speaker is Miss Pam Carter.
Hello, my name is Pam Carter, and I live at 505 Link Street in the B Street neighborhood in lower downtown. I'm actually here in favor of speaking about the athletic complex being built on Fields Road in East Fayetteville in District 2. This location was heavily advertised and publicized by the city in several publications, the newspaper, social media, flyers, and pamphlets. And some of the positives about that location advertised at that time was the city already owns the property with option to purchase more land. It'll stimulate economic growth for one of our major gateways for I-95, which leads to our downtown corridor. It has easy access from I-95 for a lot of out-of-town travelers. The hotels out there provide over 1,400 beds on exit 49 and is growing. There's restaurants, places to get gas, and shopping nearby. And also, I think a lot of those athletes will want to be able to get to our new ballpark quickly. District 2 had the most votes in favor of the $35 million Parks and Rec bond, a recreation bond that everyone believed would be a very hard sell as in years past, but y'all got it done. And there was numerous articles in the paper about it, and they all listed as a top priority a complex of athletic field off exit 49 at Interstate 95, Fields Road. You got it passed because things like this is the front page of the Fayetteville Observer, December 1st, 2015. Where would the money go? And one of those right here prominently on the front page of the newspaper here, athletic field. complex on 50 city-owned acres on Fields Road off Cedar Creek Road. And that's how you got that parks bond passed. Also, we voted for the Cape Fear River Park, which it's been tabled. So that's very disappointing that we that's been delayed. We still want it. We're going to hold y'all accountable for that too. Also, I looked at the Fayetteville Parks and Rec website today, and under about the Parks and Rec bond, it says, how did we choose the proposed projects to be built? Projects covered by the bond were strategically selected based on a sound evaluation of what would best serve our community's recreational needs and generate new revenue for our county. If the Fields Road site was strategically selected based on sound evaluation back in 2015, why is it in question now? I've heard talk of the land being wet. Was it wet in 2015 when it was being evaluated back then and selected and publicized? Has there been any testing of the ground? Has there been any soil samples taken? And if so, where are those reports? I'd like to see them. If the land is good enough for a 911 call center and a fire station, possibly, then why isn't it good enough for a soccer field? I have questions and I'd like answers. And I'm not done, but I'm finished, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We want that park on Fields Road.
Thank you, Ms. Pam.
Thank y'all.
Councilmember Cullerton, brief remarks. Yes, sir.
Brief, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Carter, for coming up. I just want to let folks know, and I'm sure y'all do, I get these calls, emails, texts daily from District 2 residents. So they're very passionate about this. My sense is that they do feel that something's being taken away from them with this discussion. I know nothing is settled yet, Ms. Carter, so we're still working on it for what's best for the city, but that's just the tone I'm getting.
Thank you. And council, let's be mindful, this is the public's opportunity to speak to us. We've talked all night, okay? So let's keep it very limited and just problem solve like the previous case with the young lady. Madam Clerk.
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Ethelyn Baker.
Good evening.
My name is Ethelyn Holden Baker, and I reside at 810 Executive Place, 28305, and Dawkins is my representative. I come before you this evening as a concerned citizen about many things in our city as well as the state. Although our city is making progress, I feel that it has neglected a segment of our population, continuing to push them into the shadows, thinking they will eventually go away or disappear. I'm sure you are aware of the population to which I'm referring to at this time, the homeless. In spite of the information in an article on July 12th in the Fayetteville Observer, which stated, city says new audience reducing panhandling. The homeless population is a serious problem. For an example, many of the people use the library as a place to go during the day because they cannot stay at the shelter they're in during the day. They must get out. And the library being a public place, they cannot tell them to get out. Can't stay there because it's been a public place. But many times, patrons are approached by persons asking for money or saying they have no bus fare or asking for money for food. They stand on the steps of the library, the main library downtown, as well as the branch libraries, which I've had experience. Because as a citizen, I'm involved and I go various places, so as a result, I see many of these things happening that you may not see, because sometimes people have a tendency to avoid certain areas. But I go to different places because I want to be involved with the citizens. They also stand in front of the food facilities, including fast food places, as well as grocery stores. Although many organizations here in Fayetteville have helped to reduce the homeless, but I personally feel that you, as city councils members, as representatives of our city, have an obligation, and you can solve this, I believe, by being innovative to eradicate this problem. And I would like to present a proposal which I call HELP. This is an example of what I suggest. HELP, an acronym, HELP, which I said stands for hope emerging through love and patience. Quickly, many of you believe in Jesus. I've heard you pray. So God, for an example, would think in terms of taking care of the homeless. So I would like you to practice what you preach and what you believe. And I would like to give this copy to the clerk for you to look and examine. Thank you very much. And I can't send it to all of you online. I can send the whole thing to you, to each person, via internet. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll copy it and distribute it.
Madam Clerk?
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Iman Iranami Mohammed.
The Audible, sir.
Greetings, everyone. With the name of God, the beneficent, the merciful. We are blessed to be here. We're thankful. We're grateful. We have a limited time to speak, and we are growing like crazy. I am Imam Iranami Mohammed here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, the founder of the Muslim community here, Masjid Omar Ibn Said, first builder and founder for the Fayetteville State University Broncos students in 1970. One of the most popular mosque and masjids in the country, and the first masjid built in North Carolina before Charlotte, Raleigh, and others in the black community. Clearly, the baseball stadium across the street is phenomenal, it's great, it's fantastic, keep it going. We must not slow down. But it's an eyesore when you have those boards on the front of the Prince Charles Hotel with some naked open spaces at the top. That's got to be beautified. The aesthetic value is not there. If you go to Raleigh, when they build parking decks, they make it look beautiful on the outside, and a whole lot of work is going on the inside. So you got to clear that up. That sends the wrong message. The other thing is the house of Dr. E.E. Smith. Phenomenal, fantastic, and some of your staff have assisted me in making sure that happens. But most importantly, my team, the North Carolina Legislative Black Caucus, have sent money and assistance in that process. And we will honor our first civil rights leader in Fayetteville, Mr. Bill Bowser from Fayetteville State University, once we put the rooms in there in the Dr. E. Smith's house over the Gillespie Street. When President Barack Obama came to Raleigh, North Carolina, maybe 7, 8 years ago, we approached him in front of 3,000 people at the Jim Graham Park there in Raleigh, the fairground. And we asked him, when he takes over, when he calls 911, we want him to understand that Fort Bragg, like the officer said earlier, Fort Bragg will pick up the phone. That's who we are. We are the largest, most military-based, scientific military company in the world. We are the second Pentagon. We have more offices in America than any place in the United States of America except the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. We have a Pentagon here. So we're still growing like crazy. The other thing is, it's very important to protect our history. Bishop Evans, Cool Springs Street, Evans Metropolitan Church. He built the first church in Fayetteville, North Carolina. It was a black church before the white churches came to Fayetteville. This is part of our history. It's in the history book, and this must be protected. We had a debate earlier this week, and we had to make that point. We are very proud of our young people, and we look forward to them taking over at Fayetteville State University, my school, and look forward to you all coming out to more of the football games this year than before. You want to see everybody in the homecoming parade, and we're Fayetteville State Bronco Blue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Mr. Jose Cardona.
Can you tell them what I'm going to talk about?
Commendations.
Hello, how are you? My name is Jose I. Cardona. I haven't been here in a while. I have communicated with some of you through the email and my Facebook account. Condemnation of property.
Can you repeat your address for the record?
233 Addison Street in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Thanks, sir.
Condemnation should be and was in this city for people who neglect the properties, take the properties away from them, destroy their properties, and resell or use it for the city. I could see that. But you cannot take property for people who are pursuing happiness, pursuing owning something, okay? Just because somebody got a problem with the parking spaces, or they need more parking spaces. That's one of the items that should have been iron out before this thing even gets started. The new baseball stadium that I'm going to call the Arsenal Stadium, and the Arsenal players, because they carry the colors black, gray, and red, black being the Army, gray being the Confederate Army, and red being the artillery. The colors of the artillery that Fort Bragg is named after a Confederate soldier and an artillery unit. When that thing was ironed out, somebody should have thought about those things. I did. Mr. Corbin, you have a lot of choices in this matter, and so does every one of you. We have the Arts Center building right there, who we have been supporting for decades. They need to either put up or get out. You could put a parking deck there. You have a building, 2 buildings to your right, my left, for 20 years, 30, 40 years, 4 decades, empty. There's only 2 stores in the bottom, Husk and the other one. That needs to be torn down and put a parking deck. But we're still in the stages of making good, right? The parking deck has not even been built. Why not add some more floors to it? Simple solution to the problem. Since you're going to have the biggest building in Fayetteville right next to it, another hotel, I will make it like other places. You park your car, you go straight to your hotel. Piece of cake. They do it in California, they do it everywhere. Okay? Or, better yet, get rid of the police building, destroy the police building, put them behind this building, away from the crowd. They come in here, they see cops, they're going to say, where am I at? You have a lot of options. But again, I have already spoken about the majority of the people, if they come, okay? And for you to tell me you got 3,000 people going into that stadium, you need 3 parking decks. And yes, I agree with you, Mr. Hart. That baby boy down there has been empty forever. But you do have spaces. You have to think this over a little bit, okay? Again, the Arsenal Park is coming, and so is the Arsenal baseball play ball.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, our final speaker is Mr. Willie Williams.
Hello, Mr. Willie.
Yes. Good evening, Council. First, I want to say I'm impressed and I'm proud to say Fayetteville. Thanks to you, Councilman, I'm proud to be in Fayetteville now. This is the first year, 2 years I've really felt really proud to be here because of the work that you're doing. I'm Willie Williams, 1165 Sand Hill and 116 Simpson Street. I want to speak, I'm with the Community Awareness Allowance. And who we are a bunch of people who find out issues in the community, and people that's not aware, people who are not aware of what's going on, we bring the issues to them. If there's some changes need to be made, we get with the community, we talk to them, and we go to the necessary people who the issues are involved, and we iron these issues out. Because a lot of our citizens don't know what's going on in Fayetteville, so we find out and we get to them. Our last project was down to the Cumberland County Health Department. When they closed it off to the poor, we were instrumental in getting that open back up. So I say that to say this. We have a problem coming up now that you don't know of yet. Speaking of the homeless, nothing against the homeless. We have a baseball field coming over here, and we have a bunch of homeless people, no fault of their own, they're homeless, pushing shopping carts, and they will show up at that ballpark. Now, over here at the library where Ms. Baker was talking, there are about 100 or so of them congregating over there. Don't get me wrong, nothing against the homeless. I'm saying that to say this, there's a problem coming up and a solution. I talked to a lot of the homeless, person to person, and I asked them, why are you carrying these big bags on your shoulders, pushing these shopping carts around through the city when it look unsightly? No disrespect. They told me they were carrying them around because that's their private possessions. They have nowhere to store these possessions. So they said if they had somewhere to store these things, they would not be carrying them around and pushing them around like that. So I asked them what would be a solution if they had somewhere to store their personal belongings. And one told me they had 3 locations where the majority of them congregate at. Over here at the library, there are about 200 or 300 of them over every day, and a couple of positions down in this area. So one told me if we had some private lockers set up in some particular spot, only to be used by the homeless, that we could put our stuff in, we would not carry this stuff around. Now, what's going to happen when that ballpark get finished, and I'm coming down one of those corridors, and I come down to this ballpark, and there's 2 or 3 homeless out there pushing a cart with a bunch of junk in, I'm not coming back anymore. Solution. Something to think about. Something to think about. So anyway, that's my time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hewitt, we had a lot of conversation about the homeless tonight. Will you tell the listening audience as well as those here about the proposed $10 million or so that the city and county are getting together for homeless-related issues?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As part of the CDBG DR dollars from Hurricane Matthew recovery, there is money allocated between the city and the county for us to do a homeless day center, and it would hopefully include some of the items that the gentleman mentioned, would have places where people would be able to, for instance, have a central location for them to get their mail, have a central location for them to get photo ID, and in some instances as well, have a place for them to store some of their belongings too on a temporary basis. But between that, the showers, as well as being able to beat the heat on some of the days that we've had, or have access to resources that are out here in the community, kind of a one-stop shop. That is something that the council is working towards with the CDBGDR.
Thank you. Thank you all for your suggestions. And we look forward to that. Now, if we can just, and this is not homeless related, do something about these shopping carts throughout the city, but that's another nice discussion. All right, Council, I think we're at the end of our agenda with the exception of administrative reports. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Good night.